guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Camera Grace, and in this video I'm showing you how I trained my budgies and how it realistically went. And sometimes it's not all rainbows and sunshine, and I know there's a lot of videos out there that kind of seem to fantasize it, and I just wanted to show everyone the reality of it and how it actually goes sometimes. And with animals, you never know what's going to happen, so I literally had to spend like 15 minutes trying to get her used to the camera before I could even film this, so shake. So maybe you've watched a couple videos on how to train your bird and you're like, I got this isn't a big deal, and you maybe go up to your cage and your bird kind of reacts a little something like this.
Okay, just smile and establish trust. Hi there! Hey, little fella! You want to do some flap today? Oh, sure you do. All you do is you just flap your wings like this. Huh?
So then you're like, okay, if you just cooperate, we could be best friends by now.
None of that. Come on. All we gotta do is, ow! Ugh.
So then when you see nothing's working, you start trying to put your light bulbs on the bird. Anyone?
Look, I'm gonna level with you, okay? I kinda bummed out on the whole water and light fairy things, and I'm starting to run out of options here. If you could see fit to flap your little wings and take flight for a few measly seconds, I might be able to go to the mainland and bring happiness to the world! What do you say? Wrong answer! Oh, if I end up making acorn kettles for the rest of my life, I am holding you personally responsible! Ow!
Hey, look at this!
Ow! Just stop warning! Would you just... Ow! Hey! Ow! Okay. I'm letting go! I am letting go! This is not working.
So instead of looking like that, we wanted to look a little something like this.
Have to get their attention. Smile and establish trust. See?
So starting with Skylar's cage setup, this was one of our first ones, so it's not that great, but I'm showing you guys anyway because I want to show you what not to do. So the first main thing is that this cage is really too small for any bird. So any tabletop cage or cage that can fit on a counter or anything like that is usually too small. There are some that are longer, but I just recommend staying away from them in general. So that's really the main thing about this. The other thing is she's sitting on a dowel perch, and dowel perches, if you know, aren't really that healthy for your bird's feet overall because they're constantly in one position and they can't, get a break from being in that one position. The one in front of her is just a normal wooden perch. That one's actually okay. The other thing is her food dish is actually completely full and it's in the bottom of the cage. That's not really sanitary, and it's not really practical to have a lot of food in their cage all day long, because then they're not going to be hungry for you to train them, and they're just not going to want anything to do with you at all, especially if they're scared. So as we know, budgies are usually always scared, so you want them to be hungry, not starve them, but just have a better schedule of when you're feeding them and when they don't have food in their cage, so you can train them. You also shouldn't have just treats sitting in their cage like millet or fruit all day long, because those things are for treats and training only. The other thing is this mirror beside her is like not really good to have mirrors in your cage at all, because they cause behavioral problems. Your bird can become attached to the mirror. It's just not really healthy, and it really serves no purpose at all. So just recommend if you have any of those in your cage, just go take those out. So the next thing is the only good thing, really the only good toy in this cage is this paper one behind her. Then she has this plastic swing and plastic toy. There's really no point in buying plastic toys and swings because they serve no purpose. They can't shred them, so I wouldn't waste your money on plastic toys and stuff that they can't really destroy. So moving on to Daisy's cage, we actually had her in the same cage when we first got her. We knew we were going to put her in a bigger one, but this was just temporary for her to be quarantined for a little while. She did have toys and stuff in this picture, but you just can't see because this is a really close, bad picture. So I'm pretty sure this wasn't a good cage setup either. But I'm just showing you guys that we did have the same setup for her when she first came to us. But even if you are just temporarily having them in a cage, I would recommend just, having the right toys and the right diet and the right kind of purchase. This one is the same one that Skylar was sitting on, which, these purchases really aren't good for anything except for crafts. So if you have a ton of those, just take them out and, do some crafts. So when we first got Daisy, this is a picture in the pet store actually, and they actually kind of just forced her to step up onto their finger and then they handed her to us. So it kind of influenced us that maybe this was the way you do it. We had no idea. We had no clue what we were doing. So when we took her home, we kind of tried to do it ourselves that way. I remember we would go to the cage every single day and just kind of chase her around with our finger. And she would just sit on your hand like this, like very nervous. You can tell that she's not happy. She's very nervous. Her feathers aren't fluffed up and calm. This picture is all like scared, nervous body language if you don't know and if you're not used to seeing it. So I remember we would do that every day, and then I just kind of, for about like 2 days, 3 days maybe, and then I remember feeling like there's got to be a better way. Like, surely this is not the way you do it. Like, I had no idea. So then I started doing some research, and I found that there is better ways. And if you are doing it this way, kind of, just chasing them around the cage, or you're saying, well, it works, they get on my hand, it's not a big deal, it's really kind of a cruel way to train them, and long term, it's not really beneficial. It doesn't actually train them. It just kind of forces them to give up because they are small, and you can kind of, have that power over them by just grabbing them or getting them to step up that way. And if you are, that's okay. There's always room for improvement every day. I'm still learning too. So in this next picture, this is actually at our house. We were doing the same thing. Again, she's very nervous. This picture is what they should look like. Very calm. She's fluffed up. She's used to us at this point in this picture. So this is what kind of, she's still kind of checking us out because I was kind of close when I was taking this picture. But she, for the most part, her feathers are fluffed up. She's calm. She's still kind of looking, but she's just being aware of her surroundings in this picture. So now maybe you just got home with your new bird and you realize it's really scared and you're thinking, what the heck do I do now? And this is pretty normal. A lot of people will get a bird and then they get home and realize, oh, bird is extremely scared of me and it's not going to be as easy as I thought. And that's okay. I'm going to be showing you step by step what I did for mine to keep from chasing it around the cage without using any harsh, cruel methods or techniques. And anybody can use these even if you've had your bird for a year, 2 years, 4 years. Maybe you just got it. Maybe you've only had it for a week. You can still make these changes and apply this to your routine with your bird every day. So in this video, I just went up to the side of the cage and just started feeding her. This was not the first time I did this, so if your bird is not this calm and not as used to it as mine, that's perfectly normal. They might not even come up to you the first time, especially if they constantly have food in their cage. So maybe start by feeding them a teaspoon of whatever you're feeding them in the evening, and then the next morning you can start feeding them treats first. Like have like a 3 to 5 minute training session. You want to keep it pretty short because they get tired of it pretty quickly. You want to end while they're still happy before they kind of just get bored and go sit and go to sleep. So the next thing I started doing was I actually started feeding them from a dish instead of from my hand to get them used to my hand being in the cage and near them, but still very hands off, not touching them, not forcing them to step up yet or anything like that. So I started feeding them vegetables and fruits, but the main thing here is you don't want to just open your cage and stick a plate in there, because if your birds are very skittish, which they most likely are, this can cause them to fly all over the cage and get injured or hurt. So what I did to get them used to the plate first is I started just slowly putting it in the bottom of their cage every day with something on it. Sometimes if they didn't seem interested in what I put on it, I would sometimes sprinkle some millet or some seeds to kind of entice them to come to the bottom of the cage and check it out. So then they were used to the plate every single day. So then in the morning times when I would go to feed them, I actually would feed them some chop or whatever on the plate first before I gave them their seeds, because I was still not, completely knew what I was doing yet at this point with their diet. And I'm still trying to figure it out, today. So don't think that I have it all figured out yet. But they would actually get really excited and come to the door of the cage, and I would open it and just kind of slowly ease my hand in there on the plate, and they would eat from the plate like this in this picture. And so I did that a couple times, and along with still feeding them on the side of the cage. And then once they got used to me a little bit more and me giving them vegetables and stuff without my hand being too close, I finally started putting the millet in my hand and giving it to them this way on the inside of the cage. So if you've made it this far, congratulations, your hand's finally in the cage. And maybe your bird is starting to get used to it now. And you can actually still see that she's pretty scared and pretty nervous in these videos. Both of them are. In this video, she actually kind of runs away because she gets nervous. And that's totally fine. You'll find yourself, probably needing to take a few steps back, and that's perfectly normal. Some days they just seemed like they were too scared to even eat from my hand, so I would just go back to feeding them on the outside of the cage, and that's fine. And sometimes it is good to just take a few steps back. So after I was to this point, I kind of felt like I was just stuck and I really didn't know what to do next. I felt like I wasn't making any more progress, and I just felt like we didn't have very good, strong communication. So I was on YouTube one day and I actually came across bird tricks, and this is kind of where it just all the pieces of the puzzle just kind of came together for me. I just kind of felt like I saw the light, and it just made more sense. And I've heard about target training before, but I just, didn't really think much of it, and I just kind of thought it was boring. But if you feel the same way, target training is so beneficial, and you can actually completely tame and train your birds to just get onto your hands by target training and teach them how to fly. So I really recommend watching her videos on target training and taming budgies as well. They're really good. That's where I learn majority of what I know, and I also have learned a lot from some other YouTubers. I will link their videos down below. So this is me touch training Skylar for the first time. She actually learned it within 2 minutes, and I remember being so excited and just couldn't believe that it actually worked. And I felt like I finally broke through that barrier of the next level in training, and that our communication was just so much stronger. Daisy actually learned it within the next day as well, and they both learned it just really quickly. And I think it would be a little bit difficult to teach it if they're not first, used to you just coming up to the cage all the time and feeding them treats through the cage first. But that's not to say that you can't. You can start target training right away, but they would have to be getting used to you, your hand, the target stick, whatever else you're using all at one time. So I like just to expose my birds to some things like one at a time. And I also like letting them go at their pace when they're ready to do something. So sometimes it can take a little bit, but that's where patience, is the key. So now that your bird knows how to target train, they're kind of used to you now. They're used to your hands being in the cage. I actually would put my hands in the cage and target train them every single day for a couple days. And then I started not using the target stick for a little while, and I would just feed them millet from my hand, and that was all I would do. And then once they were extremely used to my hand, I would kind of put my hand up in front of Daisy, and in some of these clips it looks like my hand's touching her, but it's not. You can't really see because this bar is in the way. And you can see they're used to this routine. Skylar flies right down. I've been doing this for a while. So I slowly put my hand in front of her, and to be able to eat the millet, she has to reach over. So every day she would be like putting herself on my hand. I would not touch her at all. It would be all her. She would just, her neck would brush up against my hand or her chest or whatever. And then I would ease it over just a little bit more, where to get to it she would have to put her foot up. She did put her foot on my hand. She would get nervous and like run back away. And then, but I would still reward her. Every time she would lean her head across my finger, or she would put a toe, or, you know, if she would touch my hand at all, I would just constantly be rewarding her, because it's really out of their comfort zone for them to do. And then when she finally got to the point where I knew she could do it, but she was just really nervous and she wouldn't quite do it. She'd put her foot up, and then she'd put another foot up, and then she would run away, and then she'd put her toe on, and then I started like having jealousy on my side and just kind of feeding it all to Skylar, so then she would have to step up to get some. And I was actually having a lot of trouble with this part, and I knew she could do it, but I was nervous still, and because I was just getting used to them as well, as much as they were getting used to me, because, you know, I haven't really been holding them that much or anything, because they obviously are scared birds and haven't learned to step up yet. So my sister was like, oh, well, let me try. These are actually mine and her birds. So she was helping me train them the whole time as well. She did a lot of training, and she was like, well, let me try too. So I was like, go ahead, give it a shot, because I'm scared of this part. I'm scared she was going to bite me. And the first time she tried it, she got her to step up, and I was so proud of her and so excited, because then right after she did it, I was like, oh, I can do that. So in between finally getting Daisy to step up and getting them on the right diet and new cage setup and all these different things, my sister and my mom actually wanted a cockatiel. My sister had been wanting one for a really long time, and I was just not up for it. I was like, no way. We already have 2 untamed birds. We are not getting another. It will just be so chaotic. But we didn't really know much at this point. We didn't know as much as we do now. We did know a lot, and we had learned a lot, and we were getting super excited of how things were starting to work out. But eventually I cracked, and they talked me into it, and we ended up getting another bird. Now, I don't recommend getting another bird if you have untamed birds. Not the best idea, because most people can't handle trying to tame that many birds at one time. It's not impossible, but it's probably not the wisest decision. So here we are making all these crazy decisions, and we did it anyway. And it was one of the best things that we ever did. She is just the best bird ever. And I'm not saying we love her more than our other birds, but she is just the sweetest thing ever. And she is actually a hand-tamed bird, so that's why she was so sweet and we could hold her when she came to us. Now, I'm not saying all cockatiels are like this. It depends on each individual bird. I'm sure there are very difficult cockatiels to train also, and we have definitely had our ups and downs with her as well. With every bird, even if they are the sweetest, most hand-tamed bird you could end up with, they are all going to have problems that you have to work through. When you get a bird, you automatically sign up to become a bird trainer. It's just part of it. Kind of like when you swim, if you want to swim, you have to learn how to swim first. So yeah, it's just part of it, and you learn so much. And one of the hardest things for me was I wanted to know everything before I got into getting birds and before we got another one. But honestly, the best way you're going to learn is by just doing it. Just how you learn to walk by walking when you're little. And it was so difficult for me to learn that way because I wanted everything to be perfect, but sometimes you just have to let go and you're going to make mistakes and you just have to be willing to forgive yourself when you make those mistakes. And that's what this video is all about, is showing that even if you've made several mistakes, it's okay. You can always start where you are and move forward. So then we actually started using Kaya, and this is one of the reasons we wanted to get her, but we actually started using her to convince the budgies to fly to us. Some birds are more willing to fly to you than they are to step up first. So you can train your bird this way. With Millet, you can try to see if you can convince them to fly to you first. I've seen, just there's so many different ways to convince your bird to step up. It's just pretty much whatever works for you in your situation. Oh, here she comes. Be still. Be still. Don't let her have any more, okay? She'll have to jump to get to it. She's coming. She's coming. Don't move. Good job. Be still. Good job. Give her some for trying. Just give her a little piece. Alright. Now quickly get back how you were. Hold your hand up closer to the millet. Don't move. Back your hand away from Kaya because she's not going to want to be right in her face. There you go.
Good bird. Now she didn't say anything. She does it every time. Good bird. Good bird.
It looks like the wind-up toy just died.
Oh yeah. Good bird. You're doing it a little late, but that's okay.
So I did say you learn a lot from just having birds, but I did spend a lot of my time doing research. I read lots of books. My mom took us to the library all the time. I spent a lot of my time watching bird tricks, and her videos are just really useful. My mom also bought us some of her training videos, and we actually had a consultation with her. We just spent a lot of our time just studying to just give our birds a better life and to just further our education. And no matter how long you've had birds or if you're thinking about getting one, I think this is something everyone should do every day, even the most professional bird trainers, because times are changing so much, and the knowledge and research and training advice that people had years ago is now nothing compared to what it is now. And there's just so much better stuff and research out there today. And those are the things that we'll probably look at and be like, wow, this is not a good way of doing this years from now, because we'll probably have, better ways of doing things. But that's why I think it's so important that you just do as much research as you can. And you also have to be careful with a lot of the information out there. Some of it is really just not the best way to go about diet or training your bird. Some people will recommend tons of fruit, some people will just recommend grabbing your bird, but these are also different opinions of people. And there are lots of videos that we found that just kind of scammed you and didn't really give you the best advice. And a lot of the videos kind of just were like, oh, it's so easy and you do this, but we found it a lot more difficult with certain things. And I'm not saying that there wasn't any good videos or books or out there, but it was just very hard to find the good information because there's so little out there that people know about. watching this video. I hope it was helpful and showed you that no matter how long you've had your bird, you can start training them. And I will be posting a video soon about the progress that I've made with Daisy, and be sure to subscribe if you want to see that video.